All right, hello. Today we are here on the Founders ROC. We are joined by Marty Lucas. He's over there in the UK. How you doing, Marty?
I'm good. What about yourself?
You kind of cut out. Can you say that again, please?
No, I said I was super good. I was just curious about how your day was going. I'm more towards the end of my day. You're more at the start, so I'm in the future technically.
You are in the future, yeah. My day's starting well. It's roughly 10:15 here in Seattle. And where are you right now?
I'm just outside London. It's 6:15, and the weekend is coming quicker to me than you.
Ah, shoot. Can you say it one more time? You cut out again.
Yeah, I'm just outside London. I spent my day in London, but I live just outside, beside the river and stuff like that. So I've made a break for suburbia. But no, life is good.
Awesome. Hey, tell us a little bit about Rocketeer and what your position is with the organization, and then we'll jump into the topic of beliefs today and how they affect founders.
Okay, well, I'll focus on beliefs. I mean, Rocketeer's mission and why we exist is that we want to make the world a better place. We're very aligned with that, all 21 of us in the company. And our whole belief and mission is that the future of the world and making it a more positive place is based around entrepreneurs. So we're built and set up to do exactly that. For my particular role, we get to pick our job titles. So I'm a thinkologist. Everything I do is about people. And Rocketeer is kind of subdivided between people who are transformational and meta coaches, so help teams and individuals. And then you've got my side of the fence, which is all about mass behavioral change. So I'm a behavioral specialist looking at everything from platforms to culture to how to attack your sales and market, kind of target place, things like that.
Great. That's great. What do you like dive, what does behavioral specialist mean, and how does that apply to working with companies and founders?
Well, it kind of links to beliefs, which we'll get to as well. A lot of behavioral science is got many kind of variations of what you do, but my speciality is on the neuroscience side of it, and emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence has fascinated me for a long time. I mean, it's one of 9 human intelligences, but it's probably the one that people fear the most because it has the word emotion in it. And in the past, it's been used as a sexist, almost derogatory type thing as well. And I do a lot of work on equality and women's rights and things like that as well. So that's not me knocking it. It's just a fact that it's been an underthought about and a misunderstood kind of area. But back to the behavioral science side, my passion's always been the kind of neurology and how individuals feel and how you can apply that to bring about mass kind of positive change.
That's great. That's great. Okay, so today, so we're going to be talking about beliefs, and the Founders Rock is Founders Live
Hmm.
and Rocketeer, and we are just going through quite a few different topics around really the foundational principles of entrepreneurship and being a founder and creating a team and a business and organization. And today we're talking about beliefs and how they affect a founder's thought process and approach to building a company. And I think just to start off, like, you know, a lot of these are tenets that Rocketeer has put up forth. So, what is the basis of, beliefs from?
Can you just repeat the end of the question? Nick, it just cut out
Yeah,
a little.
yeah. Beliefs, like in terms of from the Rocketeer standpoint, how do they come into play as a founder?
Well, I mean, it's a really interesting question, and I always answer the question with two parts to it, right? So, if you're one of the founders or the founder of a business, it's generally your beliefs that are going to drive the success of what you're doing, and this or not. And the second part about it is that when it comes to the point of growth, it's whether your beliefs are part of the values of the company. And I'll talk about that a little bit later because I talk about it as brand essence. So if we just focus on the individual as a founder, it's your beliefs as an individual. I'm not just talking about, say, company values and things like that, but it's your belief system that is going to suit you, set you a course to success or not. Because it's our self-belief, it's our confidence, it's the emotional intelligence part of the world, which often causes us problems, but we're not cognizant of where those problems are coming from. So I think a great quote by Plato was that the biggest battle in life is to conquer self. Because the more that you can understand what makes you good, bad, indifferent, unique, not unique, what you need, skills, things like that, you can start setting the course for what success means. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And let's dive a little deeper in when you talk about, like personal belief systems and how, going into the conquering, what are some areas that you see that either jump out to you as successful individuals or people that struggle? What is that belief system really oriented around?
I think it's all about self-awareness. We're at a point in the world where there's a growing challenge with mental health in the place of work in general, right? And that's not because we've had some kind of scientific breakthrough. It's because we're evolving as a species in terms of what we're doing. So we're looking at the world more in terms of our mindset, having self-awareness, what drives us, our confidence, all those kind of different parts, and having awareness of yourself in every way that you can, having that kind of higher level of consciousness really can start to unlock what you could, should, and indeed shouldn't be doing. So for me, like I always use myself as a case study, the more that I became aware of anxiety and what it played in terms of a role in my life, the easier it was for me to start to bring about change about what I did, what I didn't do, and things like that. Does that make sense? Hey.
All right, Marty, you still there?
Yeah, I'm there. Can you hear me?
All right, we'll continue there. So what? Yeah, in terms of the mental health and the belief system, like, how do you? I guess let's break it down into kind of the division of people that are practicing the right belief systems or people that aren't and struggling with the basic how they actually think and what they believe.
Yeah, I think that there's some easy steps that you can start to take. Like you can start to fundamentally understand what are the skills that you're best at, and what puts you in a state of panic or anxiety. Because one of the things about founding a company is whether you do it with other people and whether you put a team around you. So, like, if you were to take an idea and you said, "I've got this fantastic idea that it's going to change the world of sales," but you don't like doing sales training, or you don't like educating people, or you don't like sitting in a classroom all day, but that's around your idea, you're going to need somebody that sits with that. So there's like a simple kind of skills alignment relative to the idea that you've got or what you enjoy as a person. Does that make sense? I'm not sure.
Okay, and yeah, so I didn't catch all that. It's what I've noticed is founders or individuals of high performance have a few, like, they have a certain way about them and a certain belief that basically, I don't know, it orients around a few things. And I think the first one is that they actually believe in themselves and how they're going to reach certain success principles. They just believe it's going to happen.
Yes.
The personal belief system, and not talking about what a company believes, personal beliefs of that founder, they just know that they're going to, in the end, achieve what they've set out to achieve. And I think the difference is people that have struggles, they somehow have a disbelief. They somehow doubt that they actually are going to succeed. Do you find that as well?
100%, absolutely. So we're talking about people who've found that success and found that balance of self and have that self-awareness have a laser focus on exactly what they're doing, why they're doing it, when they're doing it. And I often find that in a kind of different context, I meet lots of entrepreneurs, startup founders who are kind of like, I describe them as like fireworks, in that they've got lots of different ideas, but they're not settling down on one. So it's almost about the self-confidence and things like that as well, is that when you're focused on something, when you know what you're good at and you're going to take it and you know what that plan is and that route to success, then it happens. I mean, to a degree as well, I know some very successful people that have designed their lives, their business, their cognitive thought pattern around the power of attraction, and just using that as a thought process to allow them to focus, but also believe in what is going to happen for them.
Yeah, I didn't catch that last part. Could you just say it one more time?
Yeah, no, I'm saying that I know people that exactly the way that you're describing it, that have designed their life, their thought process, and their business around power of attraction. Because at the end of the day, the power of attraction, for those that you don't know it, is basically building a belief system where you don't let the negative voices into your head. You're just laser focused, not on hoping something happens, not on wishing that you had luck, but just knowing this will happen. So you're imagining, this is going to be my life, this is what will change, this is what's going to come next. And I know some very, very successful people that have done it exactly like that. They've literally become laser focused on believing and making things happen based on that belief.
And how much of that is like, how much of that is actually, lying to yourself and totally making up stories to believe that you're going to be the next, billionaire, and how much of that is actually quality psychological, like, I guess, psychological strength to just get through some of the challenging parts?
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. It's a brilliant question, because you do get people that just say, okay, well, I'm just going to be a billionaire, and I'm going to wait until somebody gives me that $1 billion, right? And that's, unfortunately, it may happen, but it's fairly unlikely that that's going to happen. The people that I'm talking about have a very distinct plan, and what they're thinking about is the next achievement. They're not thinking about this giant big picture and 10 years in the future and all this money and things like that. They're talking a fundamental step-by-step plan that says, in order for me to get there, this is what I need to happen next. So if I'm going to sell to 50 people, this is what I'm going to do in social media. This is what I'm going to do in marketing. This is what I'm going to do in my network. So it's a very staged plan. So rather than saying, to get $1 billion, I need this, it's all done in little steps, but it's done with a belief of making it happen.
Right. And what I've noticed is it is a fine line between self-deception and just absolute kind of sifting through the bullshit and finding the truth.
Yeah.
And realizing, like, I mean, there's just certain things that we can control as humans, and then there's a lot that we can't. But I don't know, I've just noticed with people that are successful, it's less of them worrying about it every day, and it's more of them being in the moment and just doing. I think the people that struggle, and I've been there in terms of, like, just psychologically not being 100% where I wanted to be. I was spending more time worrying about where I wasn't than just doing.
Yes.
And so I think belief, part of it is action. Belief is simply just being there, doing it, and not actually questioning and asking why you're not, because you got to make your first million before you make 100 million or a billion.
Yeah.
And so worry about that, or focus on that. So I don't know. I think belief is such a unique thing, and it really does orient, though, around certain practices. So belief is an action, and I'm curious about what you tell the individuals that you guys work with around how to think properly and how to operate and actually do. Like, what sort of things do you touch on?
So there's one thing that about what you're talking about that is a really interesting tip to start thinking about. So there's a phrase that I always give people to use and to put it into their journal, into their calendar, whatever gives them access to see it until it becomes a belief system. And that's the question, does this serve me? So literally, does this serve me? Is what I'm doing right now, what I'm thinking about, helping me? And it's a very simple thing, but it does start to uncover what you're thinking about. It starts to give you a level of consciousness, because somebody's saying, well, I don't worry much, when they actually do, or they're not thinking about what they're doing. Is consciousness is about understanding what's going on in your subconscious. And you often don't think about that. You're not necessarily sitting there thinking, hey, I just spent 8 hours worrying about something, instead of, as you were saying, doing. And not just using this as a phrase, but the biggest thing that you need to think about is, am I grounded in the present? So I just lost you a little bit there. So I paused it when I said, am I grounded in the present? So let's look at that on both sides. Mm-hmm. I'm on a not-for-profit that helps women that have been victims of trauma. And a lot of times what happens with trauma, and it's a great thing to understand, because the cognitive pattern of it is actually much more common than just the horrendous moments of trauma, is that if you go through something that gives you a negative thought process, and with trauma, it's generally quite deep, right? What happens is that people say, oh, it's my DNA, I'm defined by the past, I can't change anything. We hear that kind of thing a lot, right? And lots of people use it, and they don't think about it consciously. They think that, well, it's just my DNA, it's how I'm defined. But what happens with trauma is that it changes your cognitive framework. And your cognitive framework is basically how you think day to day. Make sense? Sorry, I lost you again. Are we back? Okay. So I was saying your cognitive framework is basically how you think. So if you go through a moment of trauma, it changes the pattern of your brain. So if you think about somebody that's been through trauma, they've kind of got this, think about this cognitive pattern as like a cavern in your brain. And in order to start changing it, if you were to take a pebble and start scratching a piece of concrete, it's going to take you a long time and effort to start changing it. And getting out of trauma and creating a new cavern is difficult. So that's one example of people that have been through trauma are stuck in the past. And people who worry a lot are generally thinking either in the past, and they're thinking because of a negative situation or something that happened before. And you can actually apply exactly the same thought process for people that are projecting themselves into the future and thinking things aren't going to work. Does that make sense?
Right, so it's a matter of, like, let's walk into that a little bit more in terms of how you go from being defined from your past to changing that and basically being defined by your current and future. Like,
yes.
That switch in their mind.
Yeah, I think the thing about understanding who you are and getting grounded into the present is about focus. It's simple things like saying, you know, the chimp paradox, quite a famous book about that as well. And there's lots of them with it as well. One of the techniques that I give people is actually to get, like the chimp paradox, is give that voice in your head a name. So first of all, we're not all crazy. And if you're one of those people that has the voices in your head, we all do. That's how the brain works. That's cool. That's okay. But if you give the negative voice a character, you can have a little bit of fun with it. And then you can just say, no, I don't want to listen to you. And when that voice starts coming back, what you're basically doing is changing your habits. And you're just saying, I don't want to listen to that. Instead, I'm going to focus on today. Hey.
Yep, we're back.
Yeah, cool. So I was just saying, so what you're going to think about is, I'm only going to focus on today, what I can control, instead of thinking about what happened in the past, which means that nothing, or what could happen in the future, because that also means nothing. The only thing that you can control is what you do today. And when you were talking about doing and being, there's a formula out there in terms of the world of psychology that says to have power, to have control of your life, is about balancing being yourself and what you're doing. And most people, if you think about mental health in the place of work or as a founder, they do lots of doing. Somebody's not happy, they do more. Customer's not happy, they do more. Things aren't going the way they want. Do, but they can lose the essence of being themselves. So for me, getting balanced into the present is about having an understanding of how do you do the right things whilst being yourself, because that's what you can give yourself to give you power and get grounded into the present.
To how does belief step into and affect an organization, you know, starting from the top founders down through? Does it start with the founders and their belief systems filter into the organization that they build?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because then we're talking about the touch points of culture and how you create a culture. And a business starts with the belief system of that founder, ends up being the culture of the company. Whether they're conscious or unconscious of that, that's what happens. So the more you can make it conscious in terms of what makes you unique today, why customers like you, why people buy from you, why your idea is good, that helps you grow as well.
Okay, say that again. We didn't catch that.
So I was saying that you're absolutely right. So if you think about an individual founder, it's their belief system, it's their ideas, it's the values that they put out to the world that helps get them through the first phase of their business. Now, sometimes you might do that consciously and you might say, I know people love my product because of me. It's my service, it's the way I've designed it, it's the way I deliver it, it's how I help people. Or you might do it unconsciously. Either way, you're going to create a culture of a business that other people come into, from customers to employees, and that's what's going to help you grow. Where it becomes a challenge is if you're not conscious of it. When you get to, this is generally my experience, is when people go from, say, 4 or 5 people and they go through a series of funding, or they're just growing and they go to just 10 people, 15 people, 20 people. If they're not conscious of what made them great in the first place, and a lot of that is self-awareness and the beliefs and values and the things that they put out there, they can lose what I call the essence of their brand. And this happens way more than what you might think. You know those moments when you're speaking to somebody and they're like, I don't understand, because like 3 months ago, everything was awesome and it was all working well and I don't know what changed. It happens when people go through a stage of growth. Even to the point, you asked about larger corporations as well, is if you're not conscious of who you are and where you limit or open your kind of culture to creativity, to innovation, to values, you get examples like BlackBerry, right? So BlackBerry, huge organization. It was a Canadian dude that started it, and he was given a contract to create a secure email phone. And you can Google this to your heart's content. It's kind of amusing. It's a little bit sad. But he did an awesome job with this product, but then never innovated and wouldn't listen to his leadership team or his culture in general. So he's on record as saying, over my dead body will our phone ever have a camera. Right? So, and before that in Europe, we had Nokia. Nokia had dominated the market, but they didn't pivot towards a smartphone. They didn't keep up with the innovation of it. So it's not just about being a startup or a growth company. Like your culture can be your culture and your self-awareness can be the thing that makes or breaks your company any size.
Okay. All right. Hey, Marty, we're about out of time here, but I think just some closing thoughts on, we were touching on the enterprise and how it affects clearly, like you're mentioning with, BlackBerry, it absolutely infiltrates the entire organization. If individuals are actually building companies right now, what would be a few takeaways if they are in leadership positions of infiltrating the culture and the belief system with more successful, like, foundational thoughts, principles, and culture?
So I think the thing for me is the first thing is self-awareness. You have to be aware of what makes you unique, and equally the team that you need around you to cover for the skills that you don't have. Because we've all got a natural talent. If you think you can do everything, the reality is that most people can't, right? You can't just do everything, but you might have some very select talent. Surround yourself with other people like that. The second part for me is culture has many different touch points. It's not just about having values and putting a poster on the wall. It's about empathy. It's about emotional intelligence. It's about the easiest way to think about culture is how do I want to be treated every day? So if that's about civility, treating you like an individual, and you being listened to, then make that the same for everybody else. And the third thing for me is I think you can just surround yourself with people who you trust. Because the best thing about having a trusted network, whether it's friends or business associates, is they can tell you when you're being a dick. And that's always a plus.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's yeah, I think, you know, those last two were absolutely spot on, you know, and having a trusted network around you to literally like have permission to tell you you're wrong, you're off base,
Yep.
like you're being a dick, or you're, you know, like those sort of things are so damn important, you know, and I think sometimes founders, because we can be very independent minded, we tend to possibly not put the right team around us that actually tells us the truth. And so any founders out there, anyone, any entrepreneur looking at, you know, growing an organization, you got to put a team of trusted advisors and mentors around you that have permission to tell you absolutely the truth. And it's almost like you have such a good relationship that it doesn't matter if they're going to be truthful and kind of an asshole to you, because it's absolutely what you need to hear.
Yeah.
And you know, that's the thing that one of the things I've noticed with a lot of individuals and companies that are very successful is they just put together the right group of advisors, mentors that are truth tellers and help right the ship when it needs to be, you know, turned in the right direction. So, all right. Hey, Marty, this was great. Rocketeer, you want to give a little bit of a little shout out, or what do you guys got going on in the next couple of weeks?
We've got some top 10 growth hackings. We're about to release a slideshare for that. So some tips for you from the sales and marketing point of view. We just signed up with tech.co as well. So I'm willing to give any founders out there that have got any degree of tech in their business. We do free interviews for them as well. I think they've got about 500,000 unique viewers. And beyond that, as I said at the start, our mission is to help entrepreneurs in any way that we can. So we're always open to contact or anything that anyone needs to give us as a people-based challenge.
Great. Hey, would love to see you. You know, we'll see you on Founders Live, and feel free to post any of the content that you guys have. I know you guys have a lot of content that's coming out of that organization, and so, you know, feel free to say hi and post stuff on the platform. But hey, for today, thank you so much, and we will be back here next week, I believe, with Glenn again. Correct?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Nick.
Awesome. All right. See you later.